Monday, we hoped. We seem to have had all the right guidance from the Lord. We also consulted ICS, Intercontinental Church Society, who had helped us in Brittany. They were in agreement. We spoke with local Christians who were down in the Vendée, who really wanted us to go down to the area where the Spring Harvest Holiday Park is. There was a small group said we need leadership down here. I also spoke with the Archdeacon of France, and he said, yeah, seems fine, go for it. Everybody was in agreement. So I thought, well, I've done my research, I've got it right, this is obviously the Lord's doing. And then I wrote off to the Bishop of the Diocese in Europe, and he said no. The bishops of the diocese in Europe cannot be seen to be endorsing subjective calls to particular places or abandonment of ministerial duties. I thought, whoops, what do we do about this? And we spoke to various people, but something which really stood out for us, for me, at that particular time was Job 42:2. I know that you can do all things, no purpose of yours can be thwarted. So we thought, well, this is God's work, this is what he wants us to do. And whilst I respect the authority of those above me in the church, I felt, well, guys, I think you've got it wrong. And having to, as I say, we spoke to various people, took very wise counsel from some very wise people, Christians that we know, and they said, well, your authority is God, I said, yeah, okay, I know that, but, we have to go with it. But the Lord wasn't having his purposes thwarted, because we had found a house and we actually moved down there, down to the Vendée. And you're next.
This business of abandoning ministerial duty really hit at Rog, because he was there in France ministering as a non-stipendiary minister. He had no terms and conditions for working there, no income. He could have walked out the very next day. In the Church of England, you have to give at least 3 months' notice. He was giving them 6 months' notice. So it was a very spiteful comment to be made, and one which really hurt. But we went. And then, of course, the day we arrived, we found that our new house was terribly damp. Hadn't realised that when we saw it furnished, but it had been shut up for about 3 months before we got to it. And it was really damp and it smelt awful. And I thought, what have we done? And then the removal van didn't arrive. It was supposed to be there by 8 o'clock in the morning. It didn't arrive until gone 12 o'clock. And when the men got out of the van, because they had underestimated in packing us, and we do travel with rather a lot of stuff, we discovered that they'd put stuff into boxes that had come from another move, which were labelled for rooms, but not the right rooms. And it took us a number of months to discover where everything was, because they were all in the wrong places. And I felt really, really down, and I felt, have we got this wrong? Although deep inside I knew we hadn't, because lots of people who'd asked us to come started arriving with food, and we had a prayer meeting, I think the day after we arrived, just to commit the house to God, to say it was his house. But the very first thing I did was get my Bible out and write this, which I stuck on the wall. Proverbs 3 verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. And it took a while to see that was happening, but we had that stuck on our wall for months afterwards. And in fact, it was probably still there the first time we visited us there. We did what we were told. We trusted him, even though it seemed a bit nonsensical. But that was a real comfort and an encouragement over the coming months. And during those coming months we founded Joie Christian Fellowship, which is a non-denominational group just like you guys, which is wonderful. We founded a drop-in centre because we believed that was one of the things God wanted us to do, to aid the integration of the French and English. And we worked with Spring Harvest, and we were warmly welcomed by, as Roger said, both the Protestant church in France and the Catholic church. It was just the Anglicans who didn't want to know about us. So, go for it, Rog.
So yes, we had things going. But the drop-in centre, which was interesting, in France you have to have what's called an association, an association en français, which means that if you are an organisation, albeit church or civil or secular if you like, you have to have an association. An association cultuelle, cult in French is worship, is things to do with church, C-U-L-T. So cultuel, C-U-L-T-U-E-L, are things to do with church. But the other one is culturel, cultural if you like if you're a stamp club you are a cultural association. It's that sort of difference. Although you would imagine that we might be an association cultuelle for church, we actually established an association which supported evangelism and church work as an association culturelle. So anyway, we had, and you have to have a committee, as you do over here, I'm sure. Thank the Lord he didn't send a committee. But over in France, you have to have what's called a bureau, which is like a committee with a president, a treasurer, what's the other one? A secretary. Oh yeah, secretary, that's the one. So we had this committee, and sadly some of them didn't see that the drop-in centre was Christian, and we thought this is the reason why we founded it. But they didn't see eye to eye, and there was a split. I won't go into all the gory details, but we had the meeting on the Saturday, a general meeting about the work and involving church and outreach and all of that. There'd been some differences of opinion between some of the committee and the work that was going on with the Spring Harvest holiday park that we were involved in as well. And some people took a rather strange view about all of that, and on the Saturday that was the meeting. On the Sunday nobody came to church, and we had a split. There were 4 of us, Beri, myself, another 2 other people, and we wondered what on earth we were going to do. But the interesting thing was that we were meeting in an upper room in a large building which we rent off the Catholic Church, and we were upstairs, and I plugged my keyboard in, not quite as fantastic as that one, but I plugged it in and it blew the circuits. And I thought, oh dear Lord, what's going on? You know, we thought, well, the devil's having a right go round here, isn't he? But we thought, well, we're going on with our meeting, the 4 of us, and we sang without accompaniment, and at one point, one hymn we sang, one song we sang, I had a great struggle because I found tears welling up in my eyes. The reason was that the room was full of angels. The room was full of angels all the way round, and Beri said,
I had heard the most amazing thing. Now there were 4 of us there, 2 of them would admit to you that they cannot hear the music. But the music was ethereal, I suppose is the only word used.
It was great. So, you know, it was brilliant. We just took that the Lord was saying, I'm here, I'm affirming what you're doing, you've got to keep on. So we actually were able to keep on at that point, weren't we? And people nobody actually came back from the originals who'd gone their own way. They started meeting in one of their houses and all sorts of things like that. But nobody actually came back from them, not at that time. But more people began to join us. And you have to understand that our ministry there is somewhat seasonal as well, because lots of holiday makers come in the summer. One or two of them are here, as you know, and sometimes they come just out of summer as well. But there are more people around. We can be sort of 40 or 50 or even 60 in the summer each week, but in the winter we can be as low as 3 or 4. Last Christmas there were 8 of us round our dining table, and we held a service round our dining table, informal time of worship and communion, and it works very well. But we just have to be used to this sort of apparent up and down nature of the whole work. So no, we haven't done Proverbs 14:22, have we? No. Proverbs 14:22. But this is how we sort of coped with when there was this split. Do not those who plot evil go astray, but those who plan what is good find love and faithfulness. And certainly the Lord showed us his love and faithfulness in all of that. So, since then, there have been, as I say, many second homeowners have come and joined us. They come out regularly. People in the area who have bricks and mortar, or who have a mobile home somewhere in a holiday park. But they are very faithful, and they come and make their holiday base with us. And we've also established more contacts with the French people. That's increased. And it's including worship, which includes Christmas carols. We have bilingual services, French carols, English carols. The readings are in French and in English, which always reminds me of a rather odd situation, because we did similar things in Brittany, but there it wasn't just French and English, it was French, English and Breton. Now, if you've ever heard Breton, well, it's very hard to understand. It's quite related to Welsh, actually, but, trying to stand at the front and say the Lord's Prayer at the same in English as someone is saying it in French and Breton, just one each side of you, is quite difficult. I challenge anybody to do that and not lose their way, although we all know what we're saying. But anyway, yes, we've had these wonderful times together in the week of prayer for Christian unity, and we even had a service, a time of worship to celebrate the Queen's Jubilee. Is that last year? 2 years ago. Golly, doesn't time fly? Anyway, and we had more French than English at that, would you believe? And we were able to give away a paperback. I should have brought it. I've got one with me. A paperback which was produced for the Queen's Jubilee with the Gospels and some commentary and comments about the Queen's faith as well. We were able to give everyone who came. We gave away over 100 of those, didn't we? To the people who came, include four
Catholic priests.
Yeah. Yeah. And somebody from LPO for the Jubilee had bought a cardboard replica of the Queen. It was a sort of flat corrugated cardboard, but it was photographic, so it looked exactly like the Queen on a stand. And so the French newspaper, because we always tell the French press what we're doing, and you'd be amazed how accurately they can report it. They don't pull any punches. At one time a reporter came to our house and asked us what we were doing, and I talked about things of the Holy Spirit and what he was doing, all in the French newspaper, in French accurately. So, people take a dim view of the French sometimes, but it's not true. No. So we've had some good publicity, but back to the cardboard replica of the Queen. We had our picture taken, one of us each side of her, and that appeared in this French newspaper as well. It's called West France. Roger and Beri with Their Majesty. So it's been good. The Lord has really taken us forward in what at that time when that split happened seemed to be, oh crumbs, what we're going to do now. And I think that happens in our lives so much, doesn't it? Oh golly, where are you, Lord? What are you doing? How do we cope with this? But He's faithful. Faithful one, we sang. And Jesus be the centre. It's so important, because if we don't make Him the centre, that's when we fall down, because we can do nothing in our own strength. It's got to be in the Lord's. So we've had Christians from throughout Europe join us during the holiday times. Christians who perhaps come to the Spring Harvest Holiday Park. People from Toulouse, people from Germany, people from Holland. Can't think of it. Belgium. Yeah. So that's been really great. And that's been our inspiration to know that we are following the Lord's way. It's Beri's turn.
I'm going to tie up the ends. Well, not ends, because it's going on, isn't it? There isn't an end. In Hebrews 11, we have a list of all the people who were faithful to God. And I think we've got to... The fact that they were commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised, since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. And that's a promise for all of us. A promise that if we follow His way, if we trust Him, no matter what tries to knock us off the path, He will acknowledge and value the faith that we have in Him. And that is a promise that we're beginning to see, we're continuing to see, being made good all the time. As I hope all of you folk are, that all of us who believe and trust in Him will see His promises fulfilled. And the exciting thing is, because we've been in our present village now for 8 years come Easter, we're really beginning to get to know the locals, the French locals. I have a lovely hairdresser in the village. She's very French. She's a very honest girl, and she said to me one day, Berenice, my full name is Berenice, so she always called me Berenice, she said, do you believe in baptism? So I said, yes. She said, can I talk to you about it? So I said, yes, of course you can. She said, I don't know what I believe, but my brother has asked if I will be my nephew's godmother. And she said, I have said to him, no, I won't be, because I will not be a hypocrite. I will not stand up and say things I don't believe. And I just said, that's fantastic, Muriel. That's really wonderful that you had the courage and the honesty to say that. Would that there were more people like that. And that opened up the possibility to talk about all sorts of other things. And she started asking me more questions, and I was able to get her a copy of Why Jesus in French, which she has now read and wants to talk about when we get back. So it's little by little these contacts are made. Our neighbours are beginning to understand why we go off on a Sunday morning and Roger wears this strange thing round his neck. And they see things in the paper. But other things are developing. You may have heard of the filling station organisation, which is a new thing which started near Bath, but is spreading through Britain. But we now have 4 or 5 filling stations in France, which is a place where local Christians can meet together and worship God and have good speakers. And we've actually set one up in Saint-Gilles, and we get people coming in, which is very refreshing for those who've had to listen to us all the time.
To which some of the people who left.
Yes, and as Roger said, some of the people who left when we had that big split have started coming to that, because at the beginning of last year I felt very clearly that God was saying, this is a year of Jubilee. It is a year in which you've got to go in for reconciliation. And when we were sending out invitations to the first filling station, although, as I will admit, it really hurt me to do it, I sent invitations to everyone with whom we'd had contact since we arrived in the Vendée, and some of them come. And I've learned from that I've got to trust God more and do what he says. And our final, I was going to say our final project, but I daren't say that because it might not be. We have a detached garage, which when we bought the house had been used as a summer apartment. Very basic conversion had been done to it. But all the time we've been there, I've had this vision of this being the little house where people who want time out, who want maybe to talk, who want maybe just to come and be quiet, can come and be. And we're in the middle of renovating that at the moment. And to our great joy, we've already got 5 people who are waiting for it to be finished so they can come and be quiet. It's somewhere they can come. It's not going to cost anything for them. If they want to make a donation, great. Or if they want to cut the lawn, that's equally great. In fact, it might be even better. But what I'm saying is we are beginning to, or continuing to trust Father God and to look forward, to forget the pains from the past, which I will admit I had hung on to. I've had to work at getting rid of those. But to forget those and to recognise, as it says in Jeremiah 29:11 and 13, which I'm sure you will know, that we might not know what God's got planned, but God says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Too often we stop at, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. We stop there. That last bit, you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart, is so important. God is faithful. He is incredible. That faithful one has been my signature tune for a long time. And it's just exciting. And I'm sorry if we've kept you an awful long time, but we could go on, and if you want to talk some more about it afterwards, I gather there's refreshments afterwards, so we'd be very happy to talk to you. But thank you all so much for being patient with us and inviting us, and I just have a sense that there's some sort of link growing between us. I mean, we've already got these 4, but there's something more tangible than that. But I don't know. That's up to you guys to think about. So thank you.